It was April 2009. The location was the Indian Ocean, and our hero, Captain Richard Phillips, was leading the Maersk, Alabama, a cargo ship on a routine trip to deliver food aid to East Africa. But out here, in one of the most dangerous waters in the world, routine doesn't exist. The calm was an illusion, and that dot on the horizon? It was 4 armed Somali pirates in a tiny skiff, desperate to do anything to have food on table. Captain couldn't panic like you, and honestly, I would. He had tough decisions to make. His mission was to protect his crew and get them home safely. That day was like any other. Phillips was captaining the American cargo ship, Maersk, Alabama, making a delivery of 17,000 metric tons worth of aid to some of the poorest regions in East Africa. But the ship was about to be devastated by the people which it was intending to help. Those people were the pirates of Somalia. The country had been ruined by years of civil war, with no functioning government, no stable economy, and little opportunity for its people. For many young men, survival meant doing everything and anything to have food on table. Piracy became their way of life and an effort to escape poverty. Captain Phillips and his crew were doing their routine checks, their eyes scanning the horizon, knowing the risks of piracy. At first, it looked like nothing more than a fishing boat, until it got closer and the crew saw the men on board, armed and ready to take what wasn't theirs. But these pirates weren't the Hollywood version. No eye patches, treasure maps, or swagger. These were desperate fishermen who had no hope for the future, ready to kill to survive. A pirate named Muse was leading. He had his crew armed with AK-47s and packed into a rickety skiff. Their goal? A large sum by any means. These weren't seasoned professionals. They were desperate men with nothing to lose. The crew had been trained for encounters with pirates, but in reality, without armed security on board, their defense was limited to fire hoses and hope. The ship didn't carry weapons, because clearly, when you're up against pirates with guns, nothing screams intimidating like a well-aimed fire hose. So, the crew had to think fast. Phillips, being the captain, maintained his calm composure and ordered his men to disable the engine, leaving the pirates with no choice but to board. It was now a waiting game. Who could outsmart the other? The cargo was floating dead in the water, giving the illusion that no life was there to claim. Phillips quickly directed his team to take cover in the engine room, only in the hope to buy time and keep his crew members safe until help arrives. At this point, survival meant blending in with the ship's mechanical system. It was a horror episode of hide and seek, but instead of kids on a playground, the losers would end up as hostages. No pressure. As the pirates boarded the ship, they began rounding up the crew. Phillips kept his heart steady as he spoke with his crew, calmly guiding them on where to take cover. The tension on board was intense, as every footstep from the pirates brought the crew closer to disaster. Meanwhile, the pirates were stumbling to control the ship. They weren't professionals. Their desperation was clear in the disorganization. They didn't know how to handle the vessel, let alone manage a hostage situation. But they did have one thing going for them. They were armed, and that gave them a sense of power, at least for now. As the pirates took control of the upper levels of the ship, the crew remained hidden in silence below. The future of the Maersk, Alabama hung in the balance, and Captain Phillips wasn't about to let it go down without a fight. He knew it was only a matter of time before things got even worse, but he wasn't about to let the pirates see his fear. To protect his crew, Captain Phillips offered himself as a hostage. The pirates, desperate for a ransom, seized Phillips and dragged him onto a cramped lifeboat, leaving the rest of the crew on the ship with nothing but their fear. The cramped space was barely big enough for one, but Phillips's composure infuriated the pirates. They expected fear, but instead, they got a man who wasn't cracking under pressure. Frustrated by his calm, the pirates began to argue. Phillips stayed quiet, holding on to the hope that help was coming. Despite the discomfort and danger, he kept his focus. The US Navy didn't waste time. Within hours, the USS Bainbridge, a destroyer, was on its way to Maersk, Alabama. The pirates had made a grave mistake, thinking they could get away with their doing. Phillips tried to reason with the pirates aboard the lifeboat, but desperation had turned them barbarians. The pirates, once empowered by their weapons, now felt the weight of the Navy's presence closing in. For 4 days, Captain Phillips was held hostage, while the pirates demanded $2 million, a free pass to Somalia, and a boat to escape. As the days passed by and their food and water ran out, their confidence turned into reckless desperation. The Navy, led by the USS Bainbridge, refused to negotiate with pirates, meanwhile preparing for a tactical rescue. The demands kept growing more unrealistic, but they were no longer in control of the situation. Phillips endured the mounting pressure, although there was no physical torture, but the constant psychological threat was enough to wear anyone down. His fate hung in the balance as the pirates wavered between negotiating and trying to intimidate him into submission. On day 4, when the pirates threatened Phillips' life, SEAL Team 6 made their move. With snipers in place, the Navy acted swiftly, taking out 3 pirates and capturing the last one. Phillips was finally free, the standoff over. If there's one thing you never want to hear as a pirate, it's SEAL Team 6 is on the way. That's game over. The rescue was over almost as quickly as it started. The SEALs had done their job with ruthless efficiency. But Phillips? He was a survivor, though he wouldn't come out of this without scars. The physical danger had passed, but the emotional toll was far from over. You've just survived a pirate kidnapping, been stuck in a lifeboat with a bunch of armed strangers, and the Navy has swooped in to rescue you. You'd think the worst part is over, right? Wrong. Now you have to write a book about it and make it sound like you weren't totally freaking out the entire time. Captain Phillips' memoir, A Captain's Duty, gives a first-hand account of the struggle. He credits his survival to staying calm and thinking ahead. That calmness, despite the chaos, was what made the difference. Muse, the pirate leader, was captured alive and sentenced to 33 years in a US prison. He became the first Somali pirate to stand trial in the US court system. Bet that's not the American dream he was hoping for. Captain Phillips' story is a powerful reminder that true resilience isn't about flexing muscles. It's about using the brains when everything's falling apart. And a little help from the Navy SEALs doesn't hurt.